Welcome to another episode of Get Paid for Your Pet. And today I'm super excited to have on the podcast my very special guest, Farron Lewis. He's the founder of the Michigan Short-Term Rental Association called Sharing Detroit. And he also is the founder of Capital Rental Management, a property management company, 18 properties, Detroit and Chicago. So Farron, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy to be on. Happy to be on.
Yeah, I'm super excited to speak to you because today we're going to talk about efficacy, right? And this is a really important topic because especially in 2021, there may be lots of cities that are going to try and ban short-term rentals, ban Airbnb. And that's something that we want to prevent as hosts. And Farron was actually very, very successful at preventing a short-term rental ban in his city of Detroit. So we're going to learn all about that. Farron, let's take it away. Tell us your story.
So, let's see where to start. So, I just want to let everybody know I started off as a short-term rental host, and I started with one property. Started renting a space out in the place that I stayed in, and I realized that this was actually something that I was really good at and something that I wanted to pursue as a business. I tried other businesses. Like I've been through all the ups and downs of an entrepreneur, and this was the one that I realized, oh, this is what I should be doing. So I started that, and one of the main things that I did, I felt like I actually, Jasper, I have to say again, it's a pleasure to be on because I looked at one of your websites, Get Paid for Your Pad, first to really see if this was something that was going to work for me as a full-time business. And, one of the biggest things that people did say, even back then, this was around 2016, it was to check the regulations and see if this is a place where you can, legally operate a short-term rental business. And I did that. Detroit was fortunately, very open. There was no existing regulation, and actually, the mayor of Detroit was in an Airbnb commercial talking about how they, love the sharing economy and everything. So I'm like, oh, I'm good to go. This is 2016. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to prepare, and then I'm going to start scaling the business as soon as I just prepare and get everything lined up. So I started to do that in the beginning of 2018, and really, I'd done a lot of preparation. I had looked at sites like Get Paid for Your Pad, and things were going well. I was able to expand from one. I had gotten to around 8 properties by 2019, and by 2019 it was I remember it like it was yesterday. It was in July, and this is like the biggest part of the high season where we've invested a lot. We're like, okay, time to really start, making good money from these properties that we've spent a lot of money and time investing in, right? And then on the 1st of July, there's a news article that says that Detroit City Council is planning on a very strict ordinance that will be that will look to be voted on in 2 weeks. And I'm like, wait, what is going on? Like, I just like my whole business life flashed before my eyes. I was like, I did all of this stuff, and they're gonna ban short-term rentals in like before the month's even over. And it's like, what is going on right now? And I wanted to say that because I know a lot of people did the due diligence, and they're in a place where they think that they're totally safe. They don't have to worry about regulation. The government's on their side. And I just want you to know, I don't want to say it like nobody is safe, but you just cannot be secure and feel that you're okay. Because especially now, the sentiment on short-term rentals could change any minute. All it takes is the people that make the decisions to hear enough complaints about a party house or just something that doesn't represent the industry as a whole, but they're hearing it. They don't understand the industry like we do, and then they can automatically want to decide to make ordinances, and it happens very fast. So that is literally what happened to me. I went from, having a successful business to almost losing my business, and, just a matter of seeing one publication. So at that point, I had no experience in terms of advocacy. I had never thought about being a politician, and I never thought about really talking to any politicians. So I was just like, how am I going to get this done? How am I going to save my business? And how am I going to just set this right? Because I know this is not an issue like they're trying to say that it is in the city. It's actually very good. So I don't want to get too far ahead into things. You asked where I started, and that's basically how I started and where, the roadblock, came out of nowhere.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I appreciate that. And, I think you're absolutely right. When you start an Airbnb business, you don't just want to look at what are the current rules, what are current regulations. You want to think ahead and think, okay, well, is it likely that it's going to change, right? And if you're operating in a beach resort where 90% of the people that are there are tourists,
Mm-hmm.
probably not. You're probably not going to be facing very strict regulations, right? Because the whole community lives
Possibly.
off the tourists, right?
That's true, but even then, I wouldn't put it past the powers that be. It's complicated. Let's put it like that. But you're right.
Yeah,
It's very enticing. It's like, why wouldn't they want this to happen, right?
exactly. So, but I like what you're saying. Even though it's likely that there's not going to be any regulations in the future, there's no guarantee. And so the first step of this process is like, creating a plan for if it does happen, right? Because I can imagine for you, it must have been really stressful. You've got your business, you worked on it 3 years, you probably poured your heart and soul into it, and then
Oh yeah.
suddenly you're reading this announcement and you're like, oh, what now?
Mm-hmm.
So I love that you mentioned that, because I think that's really important for everybody out there. Take a moment and just think, what would I do if tomorrow there's an announcement that they're going to vote on this ordinance to ban short-term rentals. Like, what's my plan? Like, how do we get people together? Where do we start? How do we get in contact with politicians, etc.? And I would love for you to share some of your advice on that as well later on. But let's continue with this story, because this is an amazing story. So I want to really give you the time to lay it out completely. So what happened next? You found out there's these regulations coming. What
Mm-hmm.
was your plan of action?
So my plan of action, but before what is it? I forget what it's called, but there's this whole thing when, like, I guess tragedy happens or something bad happens, and you have like the stage of denial, then the stage of like panic, and then the stage of acceptance, like all of this. Like, I went through all of those stages first, because literally, you're already worried, or you're already focused on, the regular constraints and the regular things you have to worry about with running a business. Making sure you don't run out of cash. Making sure you're managing things correctly. All the things that come into play with running a business. So you're already thinking about that, and you're like, oh, I've done really well with these. It seems, so far so good. And then again, as everybody I'm sure has experienced, our business has ups and downs and stuff too, seasonality. So, there's things that I had just finished dealing with, like making sure that, my finances were good. And it's like, okay, I learned to not invest too much during the winter, because, the winter is gonna, I need to hold on to cash, all of that stuff. And I'm succeeding in all of this. And then this one thing that you think you checked off day one is like, oh, does Detroit support Airbnbs? Yes. Check. Day one, unchecked. And that's like the biggest one that can unwind everything. So I went through a stage of just like, what is going on? And I went through all those other stages I mentioned. And then when I got to the acceptance stage, I was just like, okay, this is where I'm at right now. Nothing else matters more than making sure this ban does not pass. I mean, nothing else matters. So I basically 100% turned my focus into how do I get in touch with the right people. Like, first of all, who is the person that is spearheading this campaign to ban Airbnbs? That's the first thing. So who's and again, I'll say this, and I want to really stress this. I'm talking about how there's this threat to my business from, the Detroit city government. And I don't want it to be misconstrued like they're the bad guys. And I think that's the number one thing you want to think about when you're dealing with advocacy is you're not, it's not the bad guys versus the good guys. It's, trying to inform the powers that be. And like, so at this point, like I have many of the city council members, contact information, like I can contact them freely. We have very strong contact. If I saw them as enemies, I would not be where I'm at today. That would probably have made it worse, and it probably would have passed as a ban. But basically, you have to figure out who is the person that's proposing this restriction, and then you have to figure out, okay, I'm like, how do I even, like, how does this work? How does the politics system work in terms of getting something changed? So I had to figure all of that out. So what I did was first just researched who the person was that was spearheading the campaign to ban Airbnbs. And then I started talking to fellow hosts. So, I realized like I have to make sure I'm involved. There were Facebook groups that I was in nationally, but I wasn't really involved in the local Facebook groups so much at the time. So I immediately just started like trying to find other people. There were other clients that I knew that I was just constantly like, hey, did you know about this bill? Like, what's going on? What are they? Why are they doing this? So I tried to get background that way. So that was the first thing that I did, was just to talk to as many people in that area as possible. Now, that was something that had that was a learning experience too. First off, I found out that a lot of people, they knew just as much as I did. There were rumors. There were, it's a big hotel industry thing, or it's one person who lives in the neighborhood that's on the city council, and there was a party house in the neighborhood, so they're just mad and they're just trying to get them out of their neighborhood. Like, it's just all of this stuff, and you don't really know what the reasoning behind it is. Like, it was a good start, but it was not enough. I was just getting a lot of noise, if that makes any sense. So I was like, okay, there's nobody really leading the charge here. There's nobody that I can go to that has the answers. So it's like, well, look, I'm either going to wait for somebody else, or I'm going to have to do this myself. And I decided to do it myself. So then what I did was I just tried to contact as many hosts as I could to have a meeting. And at first I did it on Airbnb. After a while, you find out that Airbnb doesn't like it when you just contact hosts randomly and you're not talking about booking their place. So I could only do that for so long, but the people that I did talk to were definitely concerned, because nobody had organized on fighting this. So I just talked to as many people as possible, and I was like, yeah, hey, all right, we're gonna meet at this restaurant. We gotta just get something together. We're gonna talk, and I found out that city council has meetings on these days every week, so we need to come together and go to the city council meeting, and we'll show them what's up. And people are super into it. I'm like, oh yeah, we're gonna meet here, and we're gonna make it, guys. We're gonna make it. When it gets to that time, I think only 2 people showed up to that meeting. So that's another thing. I'm saying this, like, I'm talking about my experience, because I feel like all of this is something that, if you are trying to do this, it's very good for you to know as well. It's not just going to happen overnight. You're going to have to really talk to people, keep engaging, and it takes a little bit of time and work, but it's worth it when you actually get people together. So the first meeting I did, I think there were 2 people. We had some interesting conversations, but it was not super successful. Then I found out about this Facebook group that where they basically were going to meet at somebody's house, and they had gotten a good amount of people to go, because it was kind of like people that kind of knew each other already. So I ended up going to that, and I went to that meeting, and that was much better in terms of the turnout. And then the thing is, this is another thing that I think is important, because I know that, especially with short-term rental legends, I know you were the mastermind group and everything. It's for a lot of people that are at scale, correct?
That's right.
And I'm someone who's at scale, but I realized when I got to this next meeting that most of the people there were not at the same level that I was at. They were individuals that had maybe 1 home. They might have done rental arbitrage with 2 spaces. It was more of a part-time thing. They were not, as advanced, for lack of a better term, as I was. And there wasn't as much to lose either. They didn't have, they had jobs that they had to, still go to as well. They couldn't devote the time to make an organization and have that advocacy. So when I get to this meeting, I'm like, oh man, again, I'm thinking, oh, okay, they already set this up. Maybe somebody over there will be able to make this happen. And I'm just gonna, I'm gonna show my support. I get there. As soon as I open my mouth and start talking about the stuff that I researched, it's like, oh, I had researched about, how the like the actual stats of the short-term rental industry and if they really affect the different issues that a lot of cities have, such as affordable housing. That's a big one. Like raising property values, like party houses, and if it like actually messes with the neighborhood community. And I gotten like data. I'm like, oh, this isn't, in some places it is an issue, but in Detroit, in most places, it's not an issue. Again, I come there and I start talking, and then as soon as I start talking, I realize less people are talking and just more people are listening to me. And I'm like, okay, so I'm the guy that's like making all the information, saying all the information right now. So I then realized again, it looked like I was the person that really I should be doing this if it matters, because it matters the most to me. I have the most skin in the game. I think at that time I probably was, if not had the most scale. I was probably one of the biggest operators in Detroit. So besides like a Sonder or somebody that is like a private, so I was the biggest private operator. So I realized I needed to do this myself, and I needed to really just take the lead on this. So again, having no experience, I just continued with the plan. I started writing up a document to give to city council members at the meeting about how like this is not an issue, and that we'd love to have a conversation with you. Then there were other people there that they just kind of chimed in like, oh, I can do this. I'm good at making a website. Oh, I'm a realtor and I can call a lot of people and we can get I can find people to give us donations. So like the team started coming together just out of this necessity to get this stuff done. And so I was leading it. I was bringing up the ideas, but then I found the people that really wanted to team up with me and help out. So that's another thing that I think is really crucial is you'll find those other people, because you really can't do it alone. You can't try and do all of it alone. And you want to find those other people that can do stuff that you aren't so good at to help you get more stuff done. And that stuff will usually happen almost on its own. Like you want to say it, like, hey, I need help with this. But like if you're engaging with the group, somebody will pitch in and be like, oh, I can do this. Let me help you with that. So I think that's the best way to get your team. So that was the early stages of that forming, of the team forming. And so we go to the city council meeting, and this is my first city council meeting. I didn't understand how any of this stuff worked. And I just had to kind of learn. I learned that people, the way most city council meetings work is, city council has their agenda of the topics they want to cover, and it's actually made public. So I found out that, I found out about the ordinance that was going to be, they were going to plan to vote on it in 2 weeks. But they had been going over this ordinance for many more weeks before that. It's just that people don't check that stuff. Do you see what I mean? So if you're not checking on stuff that's happening in your city, because this stuff is public knowledge, you won't even know. So if we had known prior, we had kind of really tried to make a relationship with city council, or just be involved a little bit, we would have heard about this well before this was getting to be this severe. So that's another thing that I found out. And it's like getting involved early is better than getting involved when they're already trying to decide something, because we really risked losing everything by doing that. And if we had gotten involved early, it might not have even gotten to that point where they even were going to vote on anything. They wouldn't have even tried to propose that, because they would have known what was at stake. They would have known what their citizens wanted. So that was something that I found out. And then I found out that people usually the public gets a time period to speak on certain issues during city council meetings. So you have usually it's like a certain amount of time, and every individual has like between a minute to 3 minutes to speak. And that's how they kind of gauge how their rules are affecting people, or the proposed rules will affect people. So if a lot of people for a short-term rental issue come to that meeting and they're trying to, they're saying this is not good and this is why, that's one way to really help them understand what they're doing and not pass something that is going to hurt a lot of people. So again, I'm learning all this stuff as I go, and I talked to the main person who was trying to get this bill passed, and I give her my information. And this is another thing, and this is nothing against that person. I think I just want everybody to know that politicians and people in that space, they're very cordial, they're very amicable, they're going to want to talk to the citizens and stuff, right? But that doesn't mean that your voice has necessarily been heard just yet. Like it needs to be a larger representation. It can't just be you and some other people. So, I'm talking to this person and I'm like, hey, I understand regulations are good. We want regulations, but just regulations like this will absolutely ban short-term rentals in the entire industry, and that's not good. Here's my information. If you want to talk, that's great. And it sounded like she really understood me, right? That changed absolutely nothing. There was no ordinance change. She was still, just as gung-ho about things. And that's okay, It's about raising that awareness and showing that a lot of people that, they're trying to protect are going to be hurt by this, by these rules. So that was the beginning. And that was kind of just me learning the ropes. And I didn't, I like, that was not where I made a whole lot of change. It was more so me learning and kind of just getting some hard knocks, trying and failing and just figuring it out. So with that, like, that is probably how, if you don't have any guidance on it, that's what's going to happen to you. So I just want people to know that, it's a rocky start, but if you keep going, it's absolutely worth it. And so I can stop there and see if you have any questions on that before I move to the next phase. But yeah, that was like the humble beginnings of just trying to figure out this ordinance.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're telling the story really well. So I would almost say like just keep going. But one
sounds good. I wanted to open it up for any questions. All right, sounds good. So that was that part, and I'll tell you one more story because, and this is super embarrassing for me, but again, I think it'll help a lot of people. So this city council member who wanted to pass this ban. So usually every politician, they have like some sort of event, and they have many of these throughout the year where the public can come and they talk about the issues that are affecting them, and they usually call it like a round table. This one was called like a coffee and conversation, but it's very casual. It's not like something that's like a public or a city official meeting. It's just like a real casual meeting. It'll be at a restaurant, a coffee shop, and the public can come. So I end up going to this, and I'm thinking again, like, oh, if I just, let this person know, what's at stake here, she'll understand what's going on, and she, it'll be all good. I get to this meeting, and first off, this was so funny. I had a photographer there because, again, I thought this was a public meeting, and it was supposed to be to put on the website so people know what's going on. It was just, to raise awareness. And I have this photographer here, and it's supposed to be, I heard that, oh, you could have this in a public meeting with a city official. That's totally okay. They're all recorded anyways. They record all of their official meetings, so you can do this. So I have this person there, and I get up to speak, and again, me and the politician, like, we have like a nice little conversation. I'm thinking everything's totally cool, but this is before, everybody is in the crowd and people are, and she's like, talking in public with people. So then I speak, and then I kind of just start going into, hey, I know, I just want to say, I want to thank this council member for everything she's done for the city. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate you giving me the time to speak. Very cordial, right? And then I go, I know that there's some misconceptions that have been that are out here with the short-term rental industry. And I'm about to go into my amicable speech about how we can kumbaya, all get along, and we can have great regular. She stops me right there, stops me dead in my tracks. She's like, oh, wait, hold on 1 second. No, there's no misconceptions. And then she starts going into her like reasoning behind wanting to get rid of short-term rentals and basically preaching to the crowd, and the crowd is loving it. They're, because again, this is just the general public. It's not individuals that know about the short-term rental industry at all. So, when this city council member is saying stuff like, oh, it's it's affordable housing, it's affecting affordable housing, it's raising rent rates, there's a bunch of party houses going on that's disturbing people, and and I want to protect the regular Detroiters, the little people, and I want to protect everybody, and that's getting a lot of great play. And I'm just sitting there looking like I don't know, like I'm in a suit. I'm looking like the businessman that just wants to, like just totally opposite of what I was trying to do, right? And then there was a photographer that I had, and I thought this was totally okay. And she's like, wait, whose photographer is that? And I was like, oh, sorry, that's mine. It's just like, oh, so now you're gonna this is not a place for photography. You can't have photography here. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. So they're like, I asked them to leave, like everything's cool, I guess, at that point, but I just look like a total, lack of a better term, just like a total fool. I'm just like, oh man, if that was a game, I lost that part of the game, like that quarter was over and I need to go to the next quarter. So, again, me not understanding how this stuff worked, it all was for the better, but those are the things that can happen if you're just jumping into it blind and you're just trying to figure this stuff out. So that was just another little story about how I was learning the ropes. And again, and then I apologized to the city council member about the photography and everything. Things were good, and that actually led to good stuff too, though, because there were other city council members there, and I got information from them. So like even with that being an embarrassing moment, I was able to get the word out, and I did reach the ear of some people that make decisions. So like, I guess I would just say, if you ever get into a weird situation like that, don't be deterred. Just be there and make your voice heard. People are not all going to agree with you. They're not going to like what you're saying, and it's not anything bad on them. It's not anything bad on you. That's just what it is. Do you see what I mean? I mean, if somebody thinks that this is affecting the city or they have their agenda, it's just, there's no way that they're just going to automatically like what you're doing, even if you all can actually meet in the middle and get somewhere. So don't be deterred if people, if you make quote unquote an enemy, but again, they're not an enemy. Like it's a totally different situation now, but just don't be deterred by any negativity. So that was like the end of like the hard knock stage. Let's put it like that. That was the early hard knock stage. I had to learn the ropes. Then after that, things got a lot better. I got a lot more information. I learned about how this process works in policy. And the next phase that we moved into was really setting up meetings, reaching out with Airbnb, reaching out to Airbnb to also get aid in that sense. And I'll go into that too, because there's a special relationship that you have to have. It's not a one-to-one relationship. But there was that. And then just kind of cultivating the organization side of things. So just really getting as many people to know about what's happening and joining the cause as possible. So this is the next phase. So what I ended up doing was we got in touch with people that are over policy stuff at Airbnb. And this is why it's so important to do what I did. And it's because Airbnb can't fight your battles. Airbnb is, you're the homeowner, you're the property manager, you're the actual business owner in your business. And Airbnb is just a provider. They're just a platform. So for one, it's technically two different things. If somebody's trying to ban the Airbnb platform, that still means you can operate a short-term rental, but you can't do it on Airbnb, which is still not great, but it's just two different things. So it really, you have to treat it that way. And that's actually a good thing. The second reason is because Airbnb won't do this, and you don't want Airbnb to do this. You don't want them to fund or directly take over your city's advocacy, because then it changes the narrative. Then it turns into Airbnb is this big, company that's coming into this neighborhood and trying to impose their will in the neighborhood. That's never good. And that's never, it doesn't look good. And that's really not what you want. You want to keep your business. I don't, have Airbnb to thank for my success, for my business or anything like that. They are a partner, they're a provider, but it's two separate things. And that's a good thing. You want to keep it grassroots, and that's what's most effective. You want to really keep it community oriented and based on the people in your community. So I reached out with Airbnb, and the great thing about Airbnb is that they help provide just like a framework. They will help provide credibility to others in the community to rally to your cause. They know that, hey, Airbnb, is working with you, or they might show up to a meeting. They're not paying for anything. They're not, directly supporting you. You're on your own, but they are, a presence. So that helps you build your organization and helps get more people around you. So that was a key thing that we did. We started reaching out to Airbnb, and they saw how committed we were, and they knew just as well as us that nobody else was doing anything to stop this. So they were like, okay, let's have weekly meetings. Again, we can't support you directly, but we'll do what we can to just, have our presence there for meetings, so you can just help get more people. And we'll just keep you in the know about what's going on in the policy side of stuff. So we hear something about city council, we'll tell you. Very, very important. You want to have all of your connections to, the politics side of things. You want to keep your ear to the grapevine. So that was very useful there. And then what we started doing was we created our own Facebook page. So we at first had talked to this, group that was a totally separate group. That was just a local short-term rental host group. But you want to make your own presence. So we had made our own website. We made our own Facebook page. And what we started doing was running ads to let people know that this was happening. And I have to thank one of my good buddies, Drew Cerullo. He's a marketing expert. He has his own marketing company. And he helped take this on with us, where he was great at direct response emails. And those are like the emails that you get that entice you to click on them. And then they, they might have a long form message, and then you end up buying some products or something. But that's what he's an expert at. So he helped us out with sending out emails. And actually, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. What we first did was we did the Facebook ads, which are very cheap. You can do this for $25 a day. And it's actually very easy. Facebook ad, we used a stock photo, and we just basically said, hey, Airbnbs will be banned if you don't act now, or something like that. We just did that. And then we asked people to just give us your email so we can be updated. And that was one of the big fuels to the organization, because we had this Facebook group, the local Facebook group. They were on board, but we started getting just a lot more traction by putting out these ads to people that are not even in any Facebook group. Because a lot of the hosts, they're not connected at all. They're in their own bubble. So you have to find a way to get out to them, but it's actually very easy, and it is not expensive. $25 a day, you could run an ad for a week, and you can get a lot of people. So our ad actually ended up going semi-viral. In the city of Detroit, an ad that's just going out in the city of Detroit should not get maybe if it's popular, it'll get 100 likes and some comments. We ended up getting nearly 1,000 likes, comments. It ended up getting spread to, it was many, many thousands of people. And we had a whole flame war going on in our ads. There were people arguing about the issues in our ads. There were 100+ comments, oh, this is horrible for Detroit. No, this is actually great for Detroit. And you think, oh man, wait, this is actually kind of bad. It's a huge flame war going on. It's no, this is good. Any publicity is great publicity. And this means that people care. You see, this means that this matters to people. So that was really, really good to just get more people that we would have never been able to get outside of the Facebook group. So basically we did this, and we started setting up meetings. So we were doing this part of just growing the organization. And again, this is in about a 30-day span. This is not a long period of time, because again, they were voting on this in 2 weeks. And luckily, when we had at first come up there, they ended up postponing it. So that was a good thing. But we did not have a lot of time. This was going to be done in like between 30 days to 45 days. So we did all of this stuff in about 30 days, and we started setting up meetings. And we set up these meetings, and we then started, we used a GoFundMe to ask people to donate. And that was one of the key things. So all of that just allowed us to have what was most important, which is a group of individuals to like activate if something was happening. So we ended up getting our organization grew from 0 to about 1,000 members in the span of like 30 days. And what this meant is when they were proposing another hearing, we could email all 1,000 of these people like, hey, you need to come up to this, this hearing right now. And like, even if 10% of those people come, 100 people coming into that Detroit City Council room, which is what happened, it's huge. Like the press came, like it was a big deal. And when that stuff started happening, City Council started listening more. Do you see what I'm saying there? Like that's really the key turning point, and why I say that really everybody who is really has a lot of skin in the game should look to start an organization if they don't have one, or at least get involved. That's like a key to just not only protecting yourself from ordinances, but you also you have a sphere of influence. You're able to, you're that much more committed. And if you're running a management company, if you're dealing with clients, they're going to come to you and trust you more because they know that, oh, you run this organization, you're really here for the long haul, So, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So that is the part where we really got good at this, where we really were just started doing things the right way. The next thing that I would say is, while we did get all of these people and the people were able to come to the city council meetings, we still needed to really make relationships with city council. And this can be a little different depending on where you're at, but it's not hard to figure out but just know that there's a way to engage these politicians the right way. It's not like you just can run up to them on the street or just come to a meeting. You want to have like a one-on-one conversation with them, and there's a process for that. So for us in our city, there were people that knew city council members, and we were able to kind of get one-on-ones. Like it was like, well, not even really. It was more so we were able to talk to them one-on-one at the meetings, and they kind of got to know us a little bit, but it wasn't the same. What we realized we needed to do was to have to be as professional as possible and have somebody who is like, their job is to get you in the room with those people. And so they're usually called consultants. Some people say, the L word, lobbyist and all of that stuff. It basically, don't think about any of that in that fashion. These are just individuals that have relationships with city council, and their job is to, formally get somebody in the room with that city council person. This is somebody that if there's like something that the community wants, people can come together and talk to this person to get them in the room. It's not something where it's like some big company is paying some person a bunch of money, and then it's not like that. So, and this is something that every city should have in some form or fashion. So what we needed to do next was to do this the right way. We had to come to these city council members the right way. So we spoke to a consultant, and they came to our meetings. They saw that, again, Airbnb was there. They saw that we were there. Where they would normally, again, everybody has to make a living. They can't just do this stuff for free. Where they normally would have charged a different rate for something that, for some another organization, they did see that we were committed. They saw all the people that were around. They saw the Airbnb was there. Like this all helped, and they gave us like a really good deal. I think we got like 50% off because we didn't have a lot of money to spend on this. We were just trying to raise as much as possible. Like, I'm going to tell you right now, we definitely had to come out of pocket to make this happen. Fundraising, I don't know, like maybe I'm not the best at it, but fundraising is a whole other game, and you can't expect for everybody else to just pay for, what you need to do, but it definitely helped. So we ended up, achieving that. We were able to hire these consultants that really felt our cause. They came and they're like, oh, we agree with this. This is really good. So then they helped us get in the room formally, the way we're supposed to with the city council members. And then we ended up having these one-on-one meetings. And this is one of the biggest things. So, and I know I've said a lot of things are the biggest things. There's biggest things in every state, but this is one of the biggest things when you're speaking to city council or anybody that has the power to make these changes. I would say it like this: you are probably, if you are doing this and you are this business owner that's operating at scale, you are probably not the person that they care about. And that's not a bad thing. Like, you are not the one that they're fighting for. They're fighting for the regular citizen, the homeowner that is, needs to keep paying their mortgage, is paying their taxes to the city and all of that stuff. They're fighting for the renter that needs affordable housing. They're fighting for those issues. So, and then in a lot of cases, they're fighting for marginalized communities, women, minorities, people of color. Like, this is something that's a big deal in the US and is a big deal in Detroit. And it's like, you need to know what these individuals care about. And it needs to be something where you're advocating for that. Because again, that's why they're not enemies by any means. They're friends. They are like, we posed it to them as, this is something that is helping the people that you're fighting for win. And so you don't want to ban this. And the stuff that they're saying is bad is really not that bad. But more importantly, these are, this is something that's on your side. This is helping your cause. So that's what we did. I did not go in there with the consultant like, oh, I have this company and yeah, we were trying to get to 20 properties, by the end of the year. And now, like, what are we going to do? Like, oh, come on, I'm running a business. No, they do not care about that. We had this community. We, knew the people in our community that we built, and we knew how many people were like, just to give you an example, one person that was really helpful, she and her husband, they had bought a house in Detroit, and they rehabbed it and they put it on Airbnb. It's a 2-unit, and they were staying in 1 unit and they're renting out the 2nd unit. And this was like their way of financial freedom. They were going to use this as a way to build more houses, and in Detroit, we have a housing problem in terms of, we have a lot of vacant houses that need to be rebuilt. There's a lot of houses that are in the neighborhoods that are vacant that, could house people. But the problem is getting people to invest and actually rehab those homes. They were using Airbnb to fund their business that, they had long-term tenants and short-term tenants. This was helping them rehab homes to rent out to long-term tenants. And this was also helping them raise their family. They were newlyweds. They had just gotten pregnant. They were going to be, their baby was going to be doing like the next month. And Airbnb was how they were really making their income. And at that point, it's like, okay, what's going to happen if you ban this? And then now my family is going to not be doing so well. I'm not going to be able to, keep doing this real estate business and help, bring more houses back to Detroit. Like, what's going to happen here? And they're also an African-American couple. And, that was another issue that, that African-Americans were being marginalized and people of color were being marginalized. And it's like, well, this is going to marginalize me, this is not going to help me. So, this was a story that was common. There were so many women that were hosts that, city council just didn't know about. When people think about Airbnb, I think a lot of people that don't know, they just think about some, super rich, and no offense to anybody, but just some super, like, maybe well-to-do white tech guy that, doesn't care about the city. You know what I mean? Like, and hey, everybody should be able to participate, right? But what a lot of these people don't know is that, the people that are actually operating these businesses, not Airbnb, but the people that are operating these businesses are people that might not have had other opportunities elsewhere. So this is like an entrepreneurial financial benefit to these individuals. And, you don't want to cut that off. It's not like a bunch of rich people just making a bunch of money. That's not what it is at all. So we had, we brought those individuals in the room with city council to tell their stories. So I'm talking a lot right now. I talked barely at all when I was in the room with them, because it wasn't my fight. This did not, I'm just the person that made the organization, So it was just my job to bring the community in directly to city council so they could tell their story. So once they heard that, and I tell you, so this is the thing, we're getting towards the tail end of this whole period. And even when we did this, the main individual that was fighting for this ban that I had mentioned before, we had gotten in the room with that individual, and even then, again, I go back to, you're not going to please everybody, and and that's the thing. It's nothing against that person at all. Like, I respect them just as much now as I did before, because it's all about, like, everybody has what they're fighting for and has their, lack of a better term, agenda, and not in a bad way, but they just, everybody has a certain side that they're going for, and you can't expect everybody to agree with you, even if you're bringing in a very good case. So we did all of that with, we got into the room with all of these other city council members, but the main person that was really fighting for this bill, we got in the room. It seemed like it was, maybe we had kind of swayed her thinking on this a little bit. That wasn't actually the case. We actually found that she's doubling down. She's going gung-ho on this. So at that point, I'm thinking, oh my God, we did all of this work. We've raised all this money. We've pulled out all the stops. Airbnb is doing their thing. We're doing our thing. Like, city council knows about us. What is going to happen? Oh my gosh. And I was actually supposed to be going out of town at that time. And so I was actually going out of town. I was going to be in Greece. And I know it sounds crazy, like, oh, you're about to lose your business, but you're going to go out of town to Greece. I was like, look, I'm going to Greece now because, like, first of all, I had planned this trip with my mom. I'm going to go, and, I got it. I've been working this whole time. I've been stressed out. I need to take a break. But it's like, there's nothing more I can do. It's, they're going to be kind of voting on it, so they're going to be doing their thing. I just need to figure out what's up. And I might need to move to Greece, because I know Greece has good short-term rental regulations. I might need to move my business over there. So I'm doing two things. I'm doing the business and the pleasure. I'm like, I might need to pack up, figure out how to ship all the furniture over to Greece. Let's see if that's economical. I don't know. So yeah, I was literally like that. So I'm just like, for a week, I'm just like, I don't know what's going to happen. And I will never forget the call that I got when I got back into town. So I got back into town when they started voting on this stuff. I got the call, and this is my buddy, who, again, the team that I built, this is one of the individuals that stuck with me from the whole experience. I did most of everything, but this person helped out a lot with the behind the scenes stuff. Couldn't thank him enough. And he calls me and he's like, man, dude, they pulled the whole ordinance. Man, everybody showed up, everybody gave their piece. And then the city council people that we talked to, one of the people they want to work with us now to make a new ordinance. They're for Airbnb. They're not just neutral. They're for it, and they're fighting against, what they were trying to do. Nobody wanted to vote on it. There maybe was only 2 people out of like 7 people that even wanted to vote, and like it was a rousing success. And I'm like, oh my gosh! Like, I'm just sitting there. I'm like, okay. Like, I kind of couldn't believe it, because literally before then there was zero indication that they were going to be on our side or not. And that's how these things usually go. The city council members and the people, they're not going to tell you like, oh, okay, I'm totally for it, I'm going to vote your way or whatever. No, they're like, hey, thanks for letting me know what you're thinking. We'll be in touch, blah, blah, blah. Like, and that's it, because they it all depends. They have to make their decision. They don't owe you anything. They just hear what you're saying. So, but when that meeting came, we realized how much of an impact we had. So it went from literally us about to lose our business and Airbnbs generally being banned in Detroit, to now us being at the table with city council. Like, I text these people, like I'm gonna be sending out Christmas cards soon, and I get to work with them and Airbnb to make ordinances and rules for Detroit, and it actually spanned out to all of Michigan as well. So people in the outside cities, they come to us for help with their policy stuff. So that's where we formed the Michigan Short-Term Rental Association, and not just serve Detroit. But I'm telling you, it was like butterflies. I just couldn't believe it for a second. I was like, holy crap. So that is my story in terms of like getting the ban pulled. And there's a lot of great things that came after that. But how about this? I'll stop here just to give you like that point, and we can discuss if you have any questions on the band or anything like that.
And I just want to say a couple of things. I want to say, number one, congratulations on this result. I think
Thank
that's
you.
incredible. Number two, thank you on behalf of the Airbnb community to take action and putting all this effort and really making a difference. You know, that's really incredible. Number three, you're a great storyteller. You know that?
Oh, thank you. I was like in my head because me and you were talking, and I live and breathe this stuff now, and I help other people with advocacy stuff too. So I don't have a script. I don't have like a bullet point. So I'm just like, let me make sure I put this into the right chunks so that people totally can follow. I'm glad that it was a good story, and it went well.
Yeah, I mean, I would say this podcast is probably a record in the sense that I hardly talked because number one,
That's a good thing, right? Yeah. Hey, glad I had a lot of good information. Yeah. Oh, it was a wild ride. I'm glad I could take everybody on that ride because like that's the thing. That's how it goes. This is not and I think I will say this now. Let my struggle help you guys. Like you don't have to make some of the mistakes that I had to make to get to where I'm at. Like now you can use what I've done. You can use my playbook and you can get ahead of this train, instead of having to like try and fight it head on. So hopefully my story, my up and downs won't be you guys' up and downs. You guys can do this like way more calmly and not like, not have it be some HBO movie that's going to be made later on or something. Oh my gosh, so stressful. I'm just telling you guys, it was probably the most stressful time of my business was that. But yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. No, I mean, no, you told a great story, man. Like I was just, I was just listening and intrigued, and you told it in a very entertaining way as well. So I just want to congratulate you on that as well. But you answered all my questions.
Okay,
During
awesome.
the story. So
Hey,
I don't know what to do.
All right, I'm gonna pat myself on the back. Then I'm gonna pat myself on the back. Now you've convinced me. I'm happy that I was able to do that. And I'll say this. I mean, that was important, but like that was just the beginning. That was really important to survive. But and this is why I really think everybody who is serious and wants to be in this industry in the long run, get involved or start an organization like this. There's more benefits than just making sure that an ordinance doesn't get passed. That was the best marketing for my business that I've ever done ever. Literally. So I'll explain, but I'll tell you the end result. As soon as that ordinance got thrown out, and everybody knew that Airbnb is legal and we're the people that did it. Remember how I said I was at about 8 units? I literally had 15 management contracts in 2 months after that. I signed on 15, and from nothing, no extra marketing, no knocking on doors, no solicitations, people came up to me. I knew everybody in my industry. I knew everybody that was operating, and I knew the people that were looking to operate, because a lot of people were waiting to see if they were going to get started in short-term rentals once this ordinance got pulled. So once that happened, who are they going to go to besides the person that they know, is here for the long haul, fighting for, their rights, and then also knows policy so that, like, hey, who do I want to manage my space? The person that I know could like help me not get a ticket or get fined or get shut down, on top of everything else, right? So it's not only a good idea to do this for the community side, and because while I understand, I wouldn't have done it if I wasn't really invested in the community. Because again, and I want to say this too, I'm not from Detroit. I'm from Houston, Texas, and I moved to Detroit about 6 years ago. I ended up falling in love with Detroit. I moved there for work, and then I stayed for the people, and then I stayed for real estate. Like I really fell in love with the city. And like I'm saying that because like you wanna I think you'll only be able to do as good of a job as if you're actually invested in your city. So if you're really just in it for the business and you don't really care about the city, you're not kind of boots on the ground. If you're like a super remote host that doesn't ever visit the city, it might not, maybe it's not the right thing for you to do. But I'd say most people, even if they manage in other cities, they're still invested somewhat in that community. They have some sort of hands-on approach. And you have to do that first. You have to feel it. You know, you have to really be invested in the community. But it's not like a ton of work. Like it's way stressful when you are under the gun and have to do it. But it's very manageable, and you know that's fulfilling in and of itself. But you know, we're running businesses. We have to be able to survive and make a profit. Correct? We have to be able to feed ourselves. So it's not only good for that. It's fantastic for your business. It gives you, and what my mastermind group calls it is a business constraint, where it's something where you have it's almost like you built a moat where your competition can't, match you in this one area. So you automatically will have the business in this area. If you're the person that starts or really becomes the most involved in your local organization for advocacy, you're going to have access to your community in a way that nobody else will. So again, I didn't have to do marketing at that point. I didn't have to get referrals at that point. People just came to me. I had already made relationships with these people where they trusted me. They gave money to our cause. They knew that we had done really good work. Oh, hey, I have a property management company. Yeah, I can just say that. And they're like, oh, well, yeah. Why don't I just have you manage my stuff? Like it's simple. So it's not only a great benefit on the advocacy side, it's great for the business side. So that's like really, to me, I think that's one of the best business models that's available in your city. If you're able to start that, do that instead of marketing, because that's what I did. I did that. I didn't have time to do marketing. I had to do that, right? But you can do both. Like doing that is marketing for your business. I think, especially with coronavirus, this is one of the biggest opportunities to really win in your business than like almost anything else. Like, yes, you can, if you're fortunate enough to be able to expand right now, like we bought a business in Chicago, so we're in Detroit and Chicago now. We've done really great things there. We're looking into Texas now as well. Again, that's my hometown. But I'd say the biggest thing right now is being a part of the advocacy, like having that advocacy group in Detroit, and we're also doing that in Chicago now too. That is so huge because you'll have the instant marketing, you'll be able to get ahead of all of these issues that are going to be coming up due to COVID-19, because they're coming. People are in Chicago. They already put out an proposed ordinance to ban one-night stays for party houses. Because why? Because of the supposed party houses happening during COVID-19. Even if it's only a small percentage of the community, that's what makes headlines. So that's what they get calls on, the powers that be. People, neighbors saying that there's a party. You don't get the calls about, oh, hey, this is really helping my family out. Oh, this is a great short-term rental. Oh, I was able to quarantine here during coronavirus. This is super helpful. First responders were able to stay here instead of a hotel and get everybody sick or whatever, They don't hear that. They only hear the bad stuff. So this stuff is coming. I think there's going to be a tidal wave of policy-related issues. And if people take action now, they will be able to stop this stuff, because you still have time. You definitely still have time. And then you will be able to benefit from your business as well. Like nobody else can. Nobody will be able to touch you in that area. So to me, it's one of the best decisions I ever made. Like it was the most stressful thing I probably ever done, because I had to do it, but it ended up being the best decision I ever made in my business. So yeah, it's still paying dividends to this day.
It's awesome, man. I love everything you're saying, and I think you're 100% on point with everything that you shared. You've answered all my questions, and
Awesome.
we have to wrap up as well. We're hitting almost an hour here.
I know. Hey, right.
I want to thank you for your time, man. Like, I think this is incredibly important topic. You told a great story. There's a ton of nuggets of wisdom that other people, I'm sure, can use in their struggle with their cities.
For sure.
So yeah, it is great. My last question to you is, how can people get in touch if they want to ask you some
Yeah,
questions?
for sure. So I would say, and real quick, do you have do you post the information visually as well?
Yeah,
Okay, because my
yeah. All
email is,
the show notes will be on getpaidforyourpad.com. Yeah.
got you, because my information sometimes is hard to, it's hard to say on the screen, or it's hard to say um, audio wise. It's easily misconstrued, but it's my name, Theron Lewis, at capital, that's CAPITOL, rental, MGMT.com. That's the best way to reach me. Another way to reach me is through Sharing Detroit, and that is hello at sharingdetroit.org. So apologies. Hello at sharingdetroit.com.
Got it. Sweet, man. Well, thank you so much for your time, and I'd love to talk more with you, and maybe we'll have you back on, because this was an incredible story. And again, thanks for taking the time. Thanks for putting in some effort. Love your mindset around all of this as well. Not seeing the council members as enemies and all of that. I think it's great, man. So thank you so much. And to the listeners, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching on YouTube. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. And we'll see you next week.
Sounds great. Pleasure being on.